Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this past week we had iOS 15.5 betas. We've also got more details about what to expect with iOS 16 and much more. This is your news update for the week of April 11th, 2022. And the first thing is, many of you, including myself, have wanted picture-in-picture on YouTube for quite some time. We've had it as an experimental feature for quite a while now, and if you play a video on YouTube, like my latest video, you have the ability to multitask while using picture-in-picture. You can resize it, swipe it off the screen, let it play in the background, or even just lock your phone and listen to it. And this was an experimental feature that was for premium users only. In a recent Twitter post, it looks like YouTube is going to roll it out to everyone soon, or at least they were going to do that, but apparently it got a little bit confused. In a recent Twitter post, they said that they were going to be rolling it out soon, but then clarified this a little bit later on, as you can see here. They said, just to clarify, what's currently being rolled out is the YouTube TV picture-in-picture for iOS 15 Plus devices. If you're referring to the one for YouTube app, it's only available to premium members on Android mobile phones. They've even removed it for iOS, so it's still working for me, but not for everyone. And for some reason, that just seems to be an ongoing issue where they're not rolling it out for everyone, although they said they would. So hopefully that clarifies it for you, and I'm a bit disappointed that it's not rolling out to everyone really soon. We thought it would be within the next few days. Now, Apple is now producing the iPhone 13 in India as well as China, which is a move to try and diversify production supply chains around the world from being in just one country. I think you'll see this more and more over the next few years just to try and mitigate anything going on around the world, and Apple is apparently partnered with TSMC, who's building a new factory in the United States as well that produces the chipsets for iPhones and Macs and more. So I think you're going to see this more and more over the next few years, and it looks like that India iPhone production is already ramped up. The new Tap to Pay service that Apple mentioned a couple weeks ago is supposedly rolling out in the next few weeks, maybe with a future update, and they're partnering with more and more people. What this allows is not only to tap to pay from your phone, but also receive payments from your phone directly through Apple Pay. So you could pay just by tapping a phone if you have an iPhone XS and newer. Apple has partnered with Dutch payment processing company Adyen along with Stripe. Those will be some of the first to support this, and it should be rolling out soon. It's already in the code of iOS 15.5, so maybe we'll have to wait for that, but it looks like that's something that we'll see very, very soon. Maybe they'll just turn it on one day when it's available or when it's ready and then be made available. So hopefully pretty soon we'll see that. Now, this past week, we had different updates, like I mentioned already, and we had iWork updates. So Pages, Numbers, and Keynote are part of iWork, and they added support for VoiceOver. So with Pages, you can read comments and track changes using VoiceOver. The same is true with formulas on Numbers. And then also, you can see here Keynote, enlarge slides to a maximum zoom level of 400%, and edit font sizes more precisely with up to 2 decimal places. They also updated this on Mac as well to include shortcut support. So all of those are available now, and they've updated the actual icons as well. So they match what we have on the Mac now for the most part. They're very, very close, and they're sort of making everything more similar across all platforms. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that Apple was ramping up to support replacing Face ID components without replacing your display. That apparently is now possible on all Face ID devices from the iPhone X all the way up to the 13 Pro Max, where they no longer have to replace the entire display as one single unit, but can instead remove the display, change out the Face ID components, and then replace it within the store. That brings down obvious cost reductions, but also makes it so you don't have to replace the display every single time. So that's now in place at Apple stores. Last week, it looked like Apple had cut production of the latest iPhone SE. This is actually the second generation that I'm holding here, but it looks the same. And the iPhone SE apparently is selling well, and Apple has not cut production according to people within the supply chain. So people like Ming-Chi Kuo and others had said that they've cut production since they weren't selling well. It appears that may not have been true overall. So it looks like Apple's still making a ton of them and selling a lot of them as well. Now, I did want to go over a couple different deals, as many people have asked me to continue to do that. And there's a few different things that are live on Amazon. Apple's been selling directly through Amazon, and you can get AirPods 3 and AirPods Pro on discount. AirPods Pro have a much larger discount at $189. AirPods 3 are currently $149. So you can pick those up I'll link that in the description if you want to check out that. It's an affiliate link, so I will get a little bit of money if you use that. If not, you can search for it yourself. Also, iPad Air 5th generation that I have here is down a little bit, down to $569 for the 64GB model from $599. And also the Apple Watch Series 7 is probably one of the biggest updates or discounts, where it's $329 for the 41mm or $359 for the 44mm in aluminum or aluminium. So those are available now. Again, I'll link everything in the description below. Now, this past week, Apple stopped signing iOS 15.4. That typically means you cannot downgrade to that version. If you wanted to go back, you can only downgrade to 15.4.1 or stay on iOS 15.5 betas. This usually means, though, that within a few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we'll typically see another public update, such as iOS 15.4.2. Usually that happens, and then we'll have a release of iOS 15.5 as Apple released a bunch of betas for that. So when they did that, it also seemed to have caused an issue for some people that were trying to update their studio display since it actually runs iOS. So when they were trying to update to 15.4, it wouldn't let them, probably due to them now no longer signing it. So Apple hasn't given an official statement, but it does seem to be what could have caused that. It looks like they've resolved that issue now, but it was having a problem. But either way, we should expect an update soon. Now, iOS 15.5 betas have only been out for about a week at this point, and usually with the early betas, we wouldn't expect another one for another week. Now, Apple could change that. We could have a beta as soon as tomorrow or Wednesday, but usually with early betas, from beta 1 to 2 to 3, we'll have 2-week gaps. So we could see it next week on Tuesday or Wednesday. Again, they could change this, and we could see it as soon as tomorrow or even betas every single week. Apple can change that how they'd like, but that's usually what I would expect. This past week, Apple released the Safari technology preview. Every so often, they release a new preview, and in this case, it has 143 improvements, such as performance and bug fixes. Now, typically, I wouldn't recommend you install this unless it's maybe a separate machine or you want to test something out, but they will come later on in future macOS updates or Safari updates. But if you want to try it out, I'll link it in the description. Now, with iOS 16, we've been hearing a lot of news because Apple announced WWDC, or the Worldwide Developer Conference. I've talked about this in depth on different videos, and we can expect iOS 16, iPadOS 16, watchOS 9, macOS 13, and maybe a few surprises as well. But with iOS 16, Mark Gurman actually mentioned what to expect and what not to expect with this upcoming version. So according to him, and as I quote from his Bloomberg newsletter that he does on the weekend, on the iOS side, I'm looking for some fairly significant enhancements across the board, including an update to notifications and new health tracking features. I'm not expecting an end-to-end redesign of iOS's interface, even though it hasn't changed much since iOS 7, nearly a decade ago. So it looks like we're not going to get a full redesign. He's been pretty accurate in the past. Hopefully he's wrong, but at this point it looks like Apple's going to focus on health and maybe notifications and more. I know a lot of people love the notifications, a lot of people don't, and I would like to see maybe a few enhancements or improvements, and specifically interactive widgets and much more. So maybe we'll see some other things he's not aware of, maybe Control Center or redesigns to icons and more, but no major redesign this year if he's accurate or correct about this. So that's a bit disappointing if he is correct, but at this point, it's been fairly stable and reliable, so maybe just making some minor changes until everyone's back in the office where they can collaborate a little more. That may make more sense where they can make it more stable this year. But for iPadOS 16, he expects maybe a change to the multitasking interface. So where some people don't really like the interface we have now with the 3 dots, we could have a change where they enhance that even more. So I know some people would welcome that. They don't really like it. So it could make sense that we'll see that. Now, as far as watchOS 9, Mark Gurman did expect a major update to include activity and health tracking features. So again, with watchOS 9, it's been fairly stable with watchOS 8, but we haven't had any major changes in some time. So maybe this time we'll see more than just activity and health tracking. Maybe we'll see a slight redesign. but we don't really know until we see it in person. Now, when we do have the launch of iOS 16 betas on June 6th, it looks like we may not have support for iPhone SE, iPhone 6s, or iPhone 6s Plus. That's the latest information, and it's from a reliable source that predicted that they would support it last year with iOS 15. So it looks like Apple could be dropping support, although it's been a very long run for these devices, about 6 years of updates, so it would make sense to move on to the next generation phones, but still support iPhone 7 and so on. So we'll have to wait and see if Apple actually drops support for these, but based on maybe some changes they make, these may no longer be able to handle those updates. Now, when it comes to WWDC, according to Mark Gurman, Apple is not planning to introduce the mixed reality headset just yet, but apparently iOS 16 code is full of references to Reality OS, or the software that's running on that new headset. So maybe we'll see a separate event later on, maybe we'll get a preview of something that maybe they'll show. And he also said to expect 2 new Macs. So we can expect a Mac Pro since Apple referenced that in their March event, but maybe the MacBook Air, but it seems too soon for that, at least in my opinion. So with MacBook Air being more of a consumer-faced product and the Mac Pro being more of a developer-faced or production sort of product, it would make sense to maybe see something else. So maybe an iMac Pro, or maybe we'll just get the Mac Pro and an update to some of the current MacBooks. In a recent Apple support document, Apple accidentally leaked that it may be coming out with a new charger with multiple ports, like this one here from Anker. So this is not a sponsored video, but as you can see, this is a 65-watt charger that can charge 3 things at once. Apple apparently has a 35-watt charger that will charge multiple devices at once as well. So that could be coming very soon, and they leaked it, and then they pulled the document quickly as it was mentioned in a support document. Many have been asking me when to expect AirPods Pro 2. And Kuo-Ming Chi actually tweeted out earlier this week saying to expect AirPods Pro 2 in the second half of 2022. He's also said that demand for the AirPods 3 is less than they expected, or less than AirPods 2 currently, and that Apple has cut production. However, he seems to be wrong about the iPhone SE in that sense, so maybe they haven't cut production and they've just produced the amount they need for now, and then as people get rid of their AirPods 2, they can transition over. Either way, we can expect some new AirPods by the end of the year. We've heard a lot recently that Apple may be transitioning to OLED displays on the iPad and MacBook in the future. Now, I find this to be a bit odd since they seem to be all in on mini LED, and I would think they'd want to transition to micro LED since that'll be even better than OLED in the future with advantages in brightness and color accuracy. However, according to the Elec, it seems Apple is working on OLED MacBooks and iPads as they've partnered with BOE, Samsung, and LG for future display production. So maybe they have both in the works, or maybe it's just a fallback, but it looks like they're going to transition at some point to a different display, and it seems like it could be OLED. There are advantages to either one, so we could see that in the near future, maybe next year. So that's everything for this past week. Of course, I'm looking most forward to iOS 16 as WWDC is my favorite event every year. I really hope there's more to it than just notifications and some health updates, though. Let me know what you want to see most in the comments below. And of course, if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.